Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Um, you develop abilities to serve without changing yourself, without being yourself. Still not sure. Are you saying some of us don't have the nature to serve? Or we have so much that gets in the way? I think, many times I've talked about, I don't know if this is what you're asking, but I'll talk about this. That many times I talked about Prabhupada saying we should be sincere. And then recently I read that Prabhupada's definition of sincerity is just really the definition of pure devotional service. Sincere, what does sincere mean? It means you serve to please Krishna. That's sincere. If you're sincere, you'll do this for Krishna's pleasure. If you're not sincere, you'll do it for personal reasons. So the reason that's so nice is because, as I've often said, everyone can be sincere. Or as I said that Prabhupada said, everyone could be sincere. There's no prerequisite and there's no process to being sincere. It's just, okay, now you have the service, so do this for Krishna's pleasure. And that means you're sincere. And anybody can do that. On any level, on the entrance level, on the entry level of ISKCON, of Bhakti, you can still do that. Right? You can be sincere. Okay, I want to do this to please Krishna. Okay, I have so many desires, so many things I want, but this service I want to do to please Krishna. That's the entry level Bhakti. Higher level is, it'll always be that way. You'll have no other desire for anything. But entry level, okay, I did this to please Krishna, now I go home and I listen to my favorite band and eat popcorn and watch a movie. But at least at the temple I did that to please Krishna. So that was bhakti. It's just in a neophyte stage, it doesn't stay. It gets, there's other things in your life. So that's where it starts. It starts with sincerity. That's it. And you're just building on your sincerity so that your sincerity it pervades your life. It's like you do everything for Krishna. Not just that, I cut potatoes today for the Sunday feast, but I did it with devotion. Because I only thought about pleasing Krishna, I never thought about eating the potatoes. That's good. That's where it starts. So, whether you can change or not, how much you can change or not, if you can do that, that's good. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. I've spoken about that a lot because it's so important. Okay. Yeah, okay. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? We've gone 1 minute over time. Of course, I'm famous for going over time. But it's 9:15 in Australia, so, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Prabhus, Matajis, mothers, fathers, Prabhvis, and those of you who are undecided if you're a Prabhu or Mataji. Do you have any other questions? This thing about the contract, could you imagine a devotee messing up a legal issue and coming to Prabhupada and saying, I'm sorry, I did it incorrectly, but I really tried to do it with bhakti. What do you think Prabhupada would say?
You did it with bhakti, you did it correctly.
Yeah, he would be upset, and if you had bhakti, you would do it correctly. So this discussion is, you can't discuss it in a vacuum. You have to apply these principles and in every particular situation, and that requires intelligence, right? Which is kind of not always available at all times. So if you're not sure, then you have to ask somebody, right? Well, is this proper? Is this the proper balance of bhakti and intelligence? Is this the proper balance of training and bhakti? Would I be minimizing my bhakti by saying I need to get trained in this area? Or would it be minimizing my bhakti by not getting trained? Those are the kinds of things you have to deal with on every level. And so it's really defining for each particular area, level, service, what does bhakti mean in this particular situation? Yes?
Well, I mean, I think maybe the full lecture was the answer to a question that I had, which is often, I mean, in the second verse of Shikshastakam, Krishna says there's no rules and regulations for chanting the holy name, or,
Right.
In service as long as you do it with devotion.
Okay.
It's the most important thing, but often devotees get that balance wrong.
There's no rules and regulations. Actually, okay. All right, so there's no rules and regulations for chanting Hare Krishna. That's true. But then here's the problem. This is like we were talking about this at breakfast. The problem of actually not understanding. You read something and it seems straightforward, but you actually don't understand it because you have to understand it contextually. And that point has to be understood contextually because when Mahaprabhu is saying there's no rules and regulations, he's contrasting it to what? Chanting of Vedic mantras, which you can't chant unless you're initiated Brahmin, and some of them have to be chanted in a specific way at a specific time with a specific accent, and if you don't do that, and you haven't taken a bath and done Achman, then the mantra has no power. See, so if you don't understand that Mahaprabhu's his point, no rules and regulations, is not that there's no rules and regulations. There's not those rules and regulations. So you, a South African born in a Christian family or a South African born in a Hindu family, which maybe not that Hindu or maybe might be more Hindu or more tending to worship demigods, whatever your situation is, you also, without being second initiated or getting Brahminical initiation, Upanayanam, and without having a guru to instruct you, you can chant this Hare Krishna mantra and achieve a position even greater than the Brahmins. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you can chant Hare Krishna in your pajamas laying on your bed and expect to get a good result. Any of you ever done that? Hare Krishna in your pajamas on your bed? I know you've all done it at some point. Actually, I was going to do it last night because I was really tired and I hadn't finished my rounds. And I was like, I just need to lay down and chant. Anyway, I didn't. So, anyway, that's a side. So you have to, it's like you always have to understand what is devotion, and how devotion. In this situation, what does it mean to be devoted? So in this situation, it means don't lay down on your bed and chant Hare Krishna, right? So, okay. But it does mean chant with devotion even if you're not a Brahmin. Chant nicely, pray. That's what it means. Even in the bathroom you can do it. That's what it means. What it means is, Krishna, you're so kind, you're letting me chant your name even though I'm not qualified. And even though you're letting me chant your name, although I'm not qualified, I don't even want to do it. So now I'm like really unfortunate. Like, here Kush, here's 1,000,000 rands. And Kush said, for some reason, I don't want 1,000,000 rands. And I can't pay my rent tomorrow, but for some reason, I don't want this 1,000,000 rands. 1,000,000 rands you're giving me. Just see how unfortunate I am. I must be crazy. That's what Chaitanya said.
Could it be likened to, you have, we have this common situation where like people from previously disadvantaged communities may not have had the same level of education in high school as wealthier schools. So they can't necessarily meet the entrance exams for universities.
Okay.
So they have like a bridging program, so it's kind of like the remedial class. So you enter, you can get in without the proper qualification, but eventually you still need to come up to the same level as everyone else to get the degree.
Yeah, no, that's true in bhakti, yeah. And Prabhupada, so Kush is saying sometimes in communities where the schools aren't so as good as in wealthier communities, then to get into college they have to do some remedial work. But eventually they have to come to the right standard. And Prabhupada spoke to us that way a lot, in both ways. Everybody chant, everybody take to it, you'll get purified. But then, when you take initiation, especially Brahminical initiation, then you're expected. This is the standard. Don't take the initiation if you can't come to the standard. You're now a disciple, you're my disciple, this is what we expect of you. So yeah, and as we read in the class on vows, if you're not ready for initiation, don't take it, there's no problem. If you still need the remedial measures, then just take them until you're ready. If you're not ready to join the university and come to that standard, then that's fine. You'll just maintain another standard. But don't try to get in the university class if you don't have that standard.
I was thinking about the paintings. I think it's the Memories of Prabhupada or something. There's one video where Jadurani was talking about a painting that she'd done of Narada Muni, which was like very like modern and muscular and kind of like more like a Greek god kind of look to him. And she'd sent it to Prabhupada, and all the devotees thought it was very nice. And Prabhupada responded, "This is not Narada Muni." And Prabhupada said that all of this muscular look, that is the
meat eater body. The muscular look is the meat eater body. Yeah.
Yeah, meat eaters.
Can I make a comment before I forget? And this has nothing to do with what you actually meant, but I was just thinking that this society is so much in passion and ignorance that what we identify as beautiful is from this transcendental position is not beautiful. So muscles, these big muscular bodies, from a transcendental position it's not beautiful. And the super thin women, below a healthy weight, that's considered beautiful for models, but not from the transcendental perspective. So it's just interesting that how our conception of beauty gets warped by modern society. It's what it values. And from the Vedic perspective, it's not beautiful. And we're part of that because we'll see it as beautiful also, because that's what's put in front of our face. But the point that Kush is making is just exemplifies the original point that Prabhupada made. Your paintings need to be authorized, and even though it's good materially, you've just painted something that's wrong, that doesn't represent the transcendence. So you've very expertly represented something that's wrong. Right?
Yeah, because I've noticed that there's quite a lot of pictures of Krishna being drawn in that way, of like very muscular.
Yeah.
And honestly, like intuitively, when I look at it, I'm like, this doesn't feel like Krishna. But then I see, Krishna with a little bit of a belly and some cheeks, and I think, oh, this is Krishna.
Yeah, it's true. Well, that's what I've called California Krishna. And, but part of the problem some of the artists have is some of them, when they're drawing Krishna, they're actually doing a portrait of somebody. Somebody's sitting there. Sometimes, because I was in LA when all these paintings were done for the BBT, and there were a lot of devotees modeling. And so then these pictures of Lord Chaitanya's associates and go, oh, that's so-and-so Prabhu, and you can just see them. Do they look like them? It's the same size. You don't know that, but we know they didn't paint them exactly like that, but they resemble them enough that and from living there, those were the models. So, that's California Krishna. And also, but you can apply that same principle to cooking, to music, to anything we do. Is it actually what Krishna likes, or is it what we like? Okay, you like it, you do it for Krishna. You like it, you think Krishna will like it. In some cases, that's true. In some cases, not true. But I would think a more transcendental we are, the more we would understand what Krishna likes. Let me go here, because you'll ask questions for about 3 more hours. So. Okay. So, Sita Leela says, how about devotees who show love and devotion to Krishna? Ooh, only Sita Leela could say this. Sita Leela, what a question. What about devotees who show love and devotion to Krishna but are not kind, gentle to devotees or to other people? What would be the result? Well, the first thing is, it's a oxymoron. At least for your Bhakti Shastra exam, here's the answer. For your Bhakti Shastra exam, the answer is, Sita Leela, I was just joking with you. See, Sita Leela asks questions that she feels are important for devotees to understand. It's not that. She's looking at all the devotees who have a lot of devotion, who are not nice to others, and having nightmares about them. So, here's the Bhakti Shastri answer to your question, which could sound offensive to these devotees. If you have love for Krishna, you will love everyone. If you show love for Krishna, but you're not kind to devotees, then you're Kanishta Adhikari, third-class devotee. That's the answer for your Bhakti Shastra exam. Okay? Now, let's get the answer for off the Bhakti Shastra exam, and let's get our real-world answer. So, that's my new logo, right? Real-world answers for real-world Krishna consciousness. Okay? So, real-world Krishna consciousness means somebody has a lot of devotion, love for their guru, a lot of love for Mahaprabhu to spread Krishna consciousness, a lot of love for service, and they love the Shastra, they love to talk about Krishna, and they have a lot of conditioning within specific modes that causes them to be critical, which either could come from pride, or it could also come from the opposite, a sense of insecurity, that I'm really low and I need to bring people down. There may be many, many reasons. So I wouldn't always say everyone who criticizes is a Kanishta Adhikari. That's a generic understanding that third-class devotee loves the deity and doesn't love anybody else, and they love their guru. But there may be a very good devotee who's dealing with issues, and as we discussed in Sydney, and I was also discussing with some devotees, I think this morning, that it also may be a cultural element within our society that we allow these things to go on. So we were talking about how you have a culture where there's no gossip and criticism, and if you start talking about someone, then you just say, well, let's go to that person and talk to them and see if we can resolve this. That would be the culture. So that way we kind of protect our devotees. So there was something I wrote, and I don't even know if I saved it, and I never sent it to anybody. It was going to be, I think it was going to be a newsletter. I don't know. Gurnish, you can tell me if I ever sent this to you. But I was analyzing all the reasons that we criticize, and this has always intrigued me. And I came up with many, many reasons I hadn't considered before. And a lot of them, maybe 15 or 20 of reasons we criticize. And most of them were not necessarily due to spiritual inefficiency. There were other reasons. Which is, it's such an interesting thing, because generally you say, okay, if you're more advanced, you won't criticize, which is true. But there's another aspect of Krishna consciousness where you can be advanced but have some like heavy duty anarthas. Like you're very advanced, but you got one anartha that's really bad, and it's causing you to act in bad ways. But the rest of your life is you're really advanced. We see you as a sadhu. So we're all individuals, and so there are many reasons that we might do these things. But as you know, when I was in Sydney, and this is how I think if we develop a culture in a temple where criticism is just not allowed, it's not entertained, then it kind of purifies us of this problem. Like, we talk about the nice devotee who's not nice to his wife. Because maybe in ISKCON, the culture about being nice to your wife is not strong or strong enough, or we need to emphasize the importance of it. Or maybe you're not kind to your children. We need to emphasize the importance. Or maybe you're not kind to your co-workers or your employees. And so we need to stress the importance of that. And sometimes we don't, right? And so I think a lot of times, as a devotee, sometimes you think because you're serving Krishna, you don't have to be nice to people, because that's the best thing you can do is serve Krishna, and then ultimately you're nice to everyone. Everyone benefits by serving Krishna, so if you can please Krishna, then everyone's pleased. So then I don't have to please anybody because I please Krishna, and it's like I'm okay. There's some kind of consciousness like that. So if you create a culture where, no, that's not right, you have to be respectful to everyone, that could make it easier. Is that okay? Yeah. So she's asking, what's the result? The result on a social level is not good. That's for sure. Creates a bad atmosphere. And Ganesha says some people feel they criticize out of love. Yeah, that may be, but when to do it, how to do it, that's another issue. This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. Whack, whack, whack. Right, so this is questionable. We know your motive is to help, but it's questionable, is that really going to help? Right. Out of love you worry for someone, yes. Out of love you may criticize to help, that's true. But you may not. It may not be out of love. Or you may fool yourself that it's out of love. Pretend it's out of love, and it's not. Anyway, Sita Leela, you already knew the answer to that question before you asked it. You're just like me. I only ask questions for which I already know the answer, but I want other people to benefit. Anyway, Sita Leela, since I left Sydney, I've gone to many temples and we've talked about culture, and it's really resonated with the leaders. They really understand that it's one thing to teach, but it's another thing to have a culture that exemplifies what you're teaching. And so I think personally, if we could create a culture where the only way you could criticize someone is to talk to them, to tell them how you feel, then probably these conversations we wouldn't even need to have anymore. It was just we would eliminate them. And because if you actually had to tell the person, you might have questions about whether I should tell them, and then you have the question: well, is what I'm criticizing, is that really true? Is that what they're doing? It's like really, really good, right? Easy to tell me about him, but it's not easy to tell him about him. Because then you have to make sure what you're telling him is actually what he did, right? Not just you're upset about him. So I think that kind of culture is just amazing. And then the other thing about that kind of culture is that if we can't do that, if we can't actually talk openly, then it's like, why have a temple? That's an exaggeration. But the part of me feels like that. If you can't create that culture, why have a temple? Because you're just going to proliferate the wrong culture. And 100 years from now, you'll have a completely different culture than what Prabhupada wanted. So, what's the point? Why do that? Right? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but for me, If I were managing a temple, this is exactly how I would feel. Like, why proliferate a culture? Just, if you can't do it right, open a restaurant or something. But to have a community where people are being criticized and that's not being dealt with, where people are learning Krishna consciousness but they're not learning to be sattvic, that's not good. Right?
I heard Urmila Master once say that those who are the most critical of ISKCON are just unengaged Kshatriyas.
Those who are most critical of ISKCON are unengaged Kshatriyas. Yeah, that's another reason. I didn't come up with that reason, but I like that. Yeah. Frustrated managers who don't have a piece of the pie anymore. Yeah.
So I think you were saying how, what would bother you won't necessarily bother someone else. So it's bothering you because it resonates with your nature. So.
Yeah. And I think also, it's like you say, if we have nothing to do, then we can get bothered about something. We have too much time on our hands. But what I tell devotees, I don't know if I mentioned this in Sydney, but I tell devotees, whatever bothers you, then that's your service. Go fix it. That's how you should see it. Rather than condemn the person, just say, okay, well, somebody's neglecting to do this, so let's fix it. How can we make it better? Okay? Can we go now? Is that all right? Kush will ask questions for another 3 hours, but if you don't have any questions, she'll continue asking them after the class. She'll ask them why I take prasadam. I'm going to take prasadam. She'll ask me when we go in the car somewhere. That's why I carry heavy duct tape with me when I'm with Kush, because periodically you just have to, say, okay. All right. Anyway, now you all want to meet Kush, right? She's got a very analytical mind. She can think of things in different ways. And Shyam Sundari, she also has a very analytical mind. So I thought they should get together. They could have a party. Analyzing things. It's actually, there's an enneagram, and there are different personality types, and one personality type is the thinker. And the thinker has to... You ever read the enneagram? Yeah, there's a different... so one is the thinker, and the thinker is just how to figure everything out. That's just how... That's there. The enneagram is just like your MO. You have one... There are 9, right? Yeah. There's one prominent and there's one secondary. And so, the thinker, that's what they do. They think. They try to figure everything out. That's just their...
Where are you on the Enneagram, if I might quickly ask?
Thinker.
Which number is that?
Thinker and the helper. But I told one of my godbrothers I was the thinker and the helper, and he said, you can't be the thinker and the helper because your secondary one has to be next to your primary.
What number is the thinker?
I don't know. 5 or something.
You did send this to me. I think I did come out as the thinker.
Yeah.
It was number 9 or something?
Oh, I'm a 9 also.
I'm a thinker or a helper. I'm a combination of both. I think about helping. Yeah. Some people, they have to help. All right. Sita Leela, you can ask one more question. Okay, you're authorized. Because I can trust you, only ask one more. Kush, I can't trust you. You're not trustworthy with questions. It's not wrong to be analytical in thinking as long as it doesn't handicap you so that you can't function at a high level of effectiveness in accomplishing. Sometimes you overanalyze, you analyze yourself into it was like, well, why do anything? Because this is that, and that's that, and if this happened, that happened, and what's the point of this because of that? And then you're like, all right, let's just go to sleep, So you don't want to do that. You want to analyze so you come to conclusions so you can go forward with clarity. And some people analyze, they become more confused. So you have to be careful. All right, Sita Leela's not asking. All right, she'll ask on WhatsApp. So we're going to officially end because I'm hungry. I had breakfast and the cook said, what time do you want lunch? And I said, right now, because I was still hungry because I ate a meal at 3 o'clock and I didn't eat that much, and so the next morning I was hungry and I ate breakfast and it was like cotton candy breakfast. So I want to take prasadam now, okay? And we'll see you next time. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.